First thing you'll need is a small flathead screwdriver and your bleeder valve. You want to take your bleeder valve, make sure that it is completely closed, turning the brass valve all the way to the right, making sure that it's completely closed, and then the T on the top, make sure that that's turned all the way to your left. This would be, back this way would be the lock position, closed. Open it up to the right, you can see the valve push down, and that'll allow the gas to go into the valve.
That is the open position. Go ahead and shut that. Remember, we want to start in a closed position. So if the nipple on the bottom is sticking out, it's open. By turning it, we're closing it. Go ahead and open and close the brass piece. So we're starting in the closed position, which is the starting position. As you can see, he's turning it that way to open it. And then go ahead and shut it, and that's the way to shut it.
All right, you want to take the fat end of your gas strut, take the end off of it. There'll be a clip that'll be in there. You have to pull that clip out, pop this off, unscrew this in. Be careful that the little threaded nipple inside here may stay, which seems like this one is doing. In that case, you'll unscrew the threaded nipple out. If you look inside, you'll see the Schrader valve. You'll take your gas bleeder, screw it into the top.
Remember, both valves will be in the closed position.
Don't over tighten it, just snug it. First thing you want to do is the T-top part of the valve. You want to crack that open. Right now it's all the way to the left, so it's closed still. I'm going to turn it to the right.
So by opening that, you'll see that on the gauge, you will tell how much pressure is inside the shock. It is very important on the next step not to overbleed the shock. It's better to do it multiple times, because if you overbleed the shock, it'll have to be sent off to be repressurized. So this is how you release the pressure.
Take your small flathead screwdriver. If you look at the valve, I'm just going to crack it open just a little bit. You'll see the gauge start to drop.
Very slight turn on the brass piece, and make sure you have control to cut it back off. We're only bleeding, how many pounds would you say at a time?
I'd say 10 pounds at a time. So you turn it to your left and back to your right. Shut it off.
You should be able to hear the gas coming off. We like to use a short flathead so we have more control over it. If you open that valve and lose your grip on that screwdriver, you're going to bleed your gauge. So it's very, very important to do it very slowly.
Very small turn.
In very small turns. So once it's bled, 10 pounds or so.
I'm going to drop it to 500.
All right, so he dropped it down to 500. Now, we're not suggesting you to drop down to 500. We're suggesting to do one bleeder gauge, one gas shock at a time, about 10 pounds, and then you want to put it back together and test it. So once you have that retightened, to remove it, you want to?
Back to close the T. All the way to your left, turn to your left.
So now we disengage the Schrader valve.
And just snug it. Don't over tighten it. It will break. Then release the brass valve. There'll be a little bit of pressure in there. Release that.
If you do not release the Schrader valve and you release the brass part, then you will still leak all your gas out of your shock. So make sure that you hand tighten the Schrader valve first, like we just did, and then release the gas. And once that's done,
Back, you can unscrew the strut or the gauge. Put the threaded nipple back in. This open end has to go facing the valve.
it's open end down.
Thread that about halfway.
So once that's tightened back on, you'll go ahead and clip that back into the gas shock mount on the top of the lid. The fat part should always stick up. The gas shock fat part will always stick up. When doing this, you don't have to remove the bottom part. You can just have to remove the top part. Once you get it back on, snap that back on. It helps if there's two people doing the job. One person can hold the lid up
You
while...
have to have two.
Yeah, you have to have two people. One person will hold the lid up while you don't want to put all the pressure of the lid on one gas shock. So one person will hold the lid up. The other person will remove this end and use the Schrader, do the gauge to release the pressure. Like we said, we recommend about 10 pounds at a time. Do one shock on one side, put it back, test the lid. A good spot for the lid is it'll sit perfect closed without coming up. You can slightly lift it a little bit and it will stay, and then it'll stay in the open position. We want to do about 10 pounds of pressure at a time. So do one gas arm on one side. And if you find that the force of the lid is going up too fast or not staying down, then go ahead and do the other gas shock 10 pounds and keep doing it like that until you get that happy spot where the lid will stay down, stay in an open position, and go all the way up. Warning that if you over bleed the pressure out of the gas shock, it has to be sent to the manufacturer, which is not us, to have it re-engaged with the pressure. And that does cost money. So please utilize caution when bleeding these gas shocks. When in doubt, always give us a call and we will tell you how to do it if this video doesn't give you enough information. Thank you.